The Order 1886 is a lost gem. It is an IP that was originally released in February 2015, and it released with spectacular visuals, a very intriguing concept, but was marred by only decent gameplay, quick time events, and overly short campaign. Sony hasn't done anything particularly with this IP since it launched, and I feel that it is a big shame and they are missing out large on what this IP could be. As stated, the game had its flaws. It was marred by quick time events for about a good portion of the game and some of the most important parts of the game. When you face things off like lichens and you're marred by a quick time event and that's how the encounter unfolds, that's not good gameplay. When your campaign is about 6 hours in length and there's only about 3 hours of gameplay, and a portion of that gameplay is quick time events, it is obviously going to miss the mark. The other 3 hours, you're either watching cutscenes or just roaming the world. A beautiful world as it is with a very intriguing concept, but it's not very entertaining. But that doesn't mean that the IP, the identity of the Order 1886, isn't a lost gem. That's exactly what this game is. The individual game of the Order 1886 isn't anything special. It really isn't. And it is a game that had potential that didn't meet its potential and probably didn't hit the sales figures, which is why Sony hasn't done anything in 7 years since it's been released. But for those who have played the game, for those who have finished the game, the people who enjoyed it recognize that the world that they've built, the story that they've built, is an intriguing one and it's filled with untapped potential. This is a game that by today, watching the footage, you can tell it is a damn good looking game. 7 years later, and this game could compete with the best of them in terms of visuals. If Sony had PS5 patch this thing and added 60 frames per second, instant load times, and maybe, just maybe a little bit of ray tracing, I mean, you would have a game that would be in contention for best looking game. That's how good it was. But it goes beyond the visuals. It's the art style, the era of which this comes, the alternate London of 1886. There's a lot of potential with this IP. If Sony would give this IP to a dedicated developer, give them the resources needed, and have them focus in on improving the gameplay, less quick time events, more shooting, maybe add some co-op, maybe add some replayability, and for God's sake, make it longer than 6 hours, maybe more like 15 hours, you could have a real killer app. The amount of potential in this game is incredibly high. A comparable to this would be on Microsoft. They have another title, Rise, Son of Rome, which is in a similar boat. It didn't do so well when it came out. People criticized the gameplay, which is fair, but the potential is there. I feel that with the Order 1886, and I've discussed this with my closest confidants who have played this game, and they feel the same way, that if you made a sequel, let's just call it 1887, and the developer was dedicated, had the resources, and improve and refine the gameplay, improve the shooting mechanics, remove the quick time events, make your encounters with the lichens far more intriguing than just a quick time event shit show, and you could have a huge step forward and make this IP a blockbuster IP. Think Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2. Uncharted 1, when it launched, it was deemed a good game, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't the IP that it is now. It became the IP when Uncharted 2 arrived, and it elevated the game in every way, shape, or form. This is exactly the kind of comparable that I'm looking at. Another example of this is Mass Effect. Mass Effect didn't become the juggernaut that it did in Mass Effect 1. The people who played it enjoyed it, but the game did have its flaws. It wasn't until Mass Effect 2 rolled around, and all of a sudden people realized, oh, look how great this is. I feel like the Order 1886 can have that kind of impact. I feel that after replaying this game for the second time, but my first time in however many years, this is literally like incredibly untapped potential. As stated, fix the gameplay, get rid of the quick time events, focus more on gameplay, less on cutscenes, and just expand the world. The world is already created. The lore is created. The story is there. The game ends wide open and primed for a sequel. And with the proper time and effort, you can have an amazing sequel that is leaps and bounds better than the predecessor and can actually put this IP on the map. The potential's there. It's just up to Sony to sit there and say, let's invest in it. Because it's very, very unfortunate that when I revisit this game after having not played it for so many years, that there are elements to it where I'm just like, man, they are really missing out. Really, really are. There is no other game on the market that I'm aware of that taps into this era of time frame in terms of the year 1886, a different London setting with lichens, aka werewolves. I mean, the potential is there. The characters are great. The story is good. It's just the game was marred by gameplay issues, and half of the campaign was just a walking simulator. Address these issues, and you have a killer app. But I'd like to know what you guys think about the Order 1886 and whether or not Sony is dropping the ball by not expanding on this IP. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.